I want to just actually talk about the post office, because there's a huge issue this week, and Mark has been in touch on text, who says, hi Peter, welcome back. Thank you, Mark in Bristol here. With reference to the post office scandal, Fujitsu had access to postmasters' accounts and could manipulate their figures and money at will. Where did all the money go? I wonder how many Fujitsu employees had accounts with the post office they could move money into. Fujitsu should pay for every cost involved. Well, I'm not sure whether Fujitsu employees could actually get the money themselves. As far as I understand it, the post office got the money. But my question with all of this is, who audited the accounts? Was it one of the big four auditing firms, for example, like KPMG, Arthur Andersen as then was now, what's it called, PwC. There are various others that, Accenture is another one. There are big firms that will have audited these accounts. I don't know which one it was, but surely they would have noticed, hold on, we have a lot more money. Where has it come from? Well, it's an overspend. Well, actually, it's money paid back, but where has it gone from previously? So there's a lot, I think, that needs to come out of this, and more questions than answers, really. Dawn in Chelmsford says, hi Peter, we really need to ensure that the ruthless post office staff who victimise the postmasters and mistresses are held to account. They're all saying, not me, Gov. Ed Davey was allegedly not aware of the computer problems, of course. It's a total disgrace. Let's talk a little bit about Ed Davey, actually, because he's the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey. People are saying perhaps he should apologise. He's failed to do that. There was an interview where he was asked a number of times to do that. I expect you saw that, Charlie. I mean, what should happen to him, do you think?
I think his credibility's shot, unfortunately for him. You know, the ramifications go far wider than Ed Davey. I mean, I was listening to something earlier on driving into the studio today where I heard that a family had lost 2 homes that they'd bought because of this scandal. They had to, people are going bankrupt. I think that the punishment, I don't know what the punishment should be, but obviously these people need justice. I mean,
there were, of course, other post office ministers throughout all this time, where there's reports emerging today about an advisor who told Tony Blair that Horizon wasn't a system that was robust, for example, as far back in the 2000s, for example. I mean, Andy, who do you think is responsible here?
I think it's probably it's a broad failure of both the state and the procurement system that we've got going on in the country that's been going back to the early 1980s. You know,
it's very hard to extract yourself from Fujitsu, even if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, the procurement process that that Whitehall have, or even down to local government, the civil service procurement service for the private sector, it's flawed. Dominic Cummings writes about this every other week in Defence, but I think it does go across the board into tech, into health. You look at the PPE scandal, it just goes down back to that procurement process.
And a lot down to private finance initiative stuff as well, which just hasn't worked in this country for a long time. It's interesting. I mean, we've had Paula Fennells giving back her CBE this week. Do you think this will fade away a little bit? We've got the compensation that's been given to, or is promised, certainly that £75,000, this overturning of the convictions and so on. Do you think that ends it? Do you think that sort of draws a line under it? Of course, the public inquiry continues, Andy.
I think legally, to an extent, maybe, but I don't think the people will forget. I think the issue will rage on until, they die. Because, so many people, some people have lost their lives, they've lost their livelihoods, even just down to their reputation. So many people have been personally, fiscally, mentally damaged by this scandal.
Of course.
I don't think it'll ever end for them. And I just don't understand, Ed Davey yesterday, why couldn't he just apologise?
Yeah.
We're not asking him to resign, we're not asking him to take full culpability, just apologise for your role in it.
And it'd be nice if people did that. It would be nice to hear an apology from Paula Fennells as well, wouldn't it, Charlie?
It would be. I think a lot of people need to apologise. I mean, there's so much going on here that people are kind of overlooking, and one of the things that I think government needs to move away from and move more towards pragmatic approaches is that the Fujitsu deal was arranged because they were the cheapest, and they walked in and found it was so overwhelming that they couldn't actually handle the job they'd taken on. So instead of just going for what's going to save taxpayer money, maybe choose something which is going to be tax effective.
It is interesting as well. I mean, do you think Keir Starmer should say, with Fujitsu, for example, who've clearly screwed up massively here, do you think that he should say, under his government, if he were to be Prime Minister, Fujitsu wouldn't be able to even tender for government contracts to get billions of pounds of taxpayers' money?
I think an investigation would be fair enough to determine the answer to that question. I don't think you can say they shouldn't, because they may have learned from their mistakes. You don't know. And until
Horizon is still being used at the moment, and it does seem to be working.
That should be stopped. I mean, while the investigation's going on, I don't see why it's still in action. But
there's a different version of Horizon, and maybe it's working now, and there haven't been complaints for a few years and so on.
So, perhaps. Yeah. But until the investigation's complete, I'm not entirely sure that we should cut them off completely. You never know. There might be more.
They are a huge firm, but then, well, it's very, very interesting. We'll see. Andy, final thought on the post office scandal, perhaps.
It's just so incredibly sad how long it's taken an ITV drama.
Yeah, 25 years
for it finally to come. And it just wasn't romantic before. It wasn't a sexy scandal. But now ITV have done this fantastic drama on it, and now everyone's up in arms. I think it's just disgusting that successive governments have gone, oh well, you'll have to take it to court, and then maybe, and now they've just said, oh yeah, we'll sort it.
Well,
now.
they've said nothing can be done, and then suddenly it's all sorted in a few days. It was interesting. There's a sort of viral clip of my talkTV colleague Jake Berry, MP, Conservative MP, being harangued by Ian Hislop, and I think of the editor of Private Eye, and I think it was probably fair enough for Ian Hislop to be angry about it. I'm glad he's angry about it, but at the same time I sort of thought perhaps that came from frustration, the fact that, I read Private Eye every 2 weeks when it comes out, and Private Eye have been talking about Horizon for years and years and years, and they failed to make much of an impact, even though their investigative journalism is often brilliant. They failed to make the impact that an ITV drama did. Why do you think it is that, that's sort of a mini scandal within itself, that it took a sort of drama for us to actually start caring about this?
I think in Private Eye, because they spoke about it pretty consistently, I would say if it wasn't in every issue, it would be 90%
almost
of
every
issues.
issue.
I think it almost became a bit like, oh, not again, because it was just the same content being printed over and over and over. And Private Eye, fantastic. Ian Hislop, great journalist, love Private Eye, but I don't know. It's
a way of just crystallising it for the public consciousness, isn't it, Charlie? It somehow just puts it, I suppose, makes it a human story with actors we often recognise and so on. But it is almost sad that has to happen.
It is sad. I think it's the attention span. People don't typically these days want to sit down and read a newspaper anymore. They prefer to read headlines.